The machines in our homes have eyes now. Cameras, microphones, sensors that map every square inch of the place where we sleep. We invited them in. We set them up ourselves. We connected them to our Wi-Fi, gave them access to our networks, and then we forgot about them. These are 3 true stories of people who were reminded, in the worst possible way, that just because you own the machine doesn't mean you're the only one watching it. I bought one of those robot vacuums about a year ago. Nothing fancy, mid-range. It had a camera on top for navigation, which I thought was a little excessive for something that just pushes dirt around. But the reviews were good, and it was on sale, so I didn't think twice about it. I set it up to run every night at midnight. I liked waking up to clean floors. It became background noise, this quiet little whir that would start up after I went to bed and finish sometime around 2 a.m. I never thought about it. That was the whole point. You set it and forget it. About 3 months in, I noticed something in the app. The vacuum maps your floor plan as it cleans. It builds this little blueprint of your apartment over time so it knows where to go and where to avoid. I'd check it occasionally just to see the routes it was taking. Normal stuff. But one night, I opened the app, and the app looked wrong. It was too big. My apartment is a 1-bedroom. Galley kitchen, living room, bedroom, bathroom. That's it. About 650 square feet. But the map on my screen was showing rooms I didn't have. An extra hallway. What looked like a second bedroom. Dimensions that didn't match my space at all. I figured it was a software glitch. Maybe the sensor got confused by a mirror or a glass door. I reset the map and let it rebuild over the next few cleaning cycles. 3 days later, I checked it again. The extra rooms were back. I stared at it for a while, rotating the floor plan on my phone, trying to make sense of it. And then it clicked. The layout I was looking at, the extra hallway, the additional bedroom, that was my neighbor's apartment. The unit directly next to mine. The vacuum was somehow mapping through the shared wall. I didn't know that was possible. I still don't fully understand how it worked. Maybe the navigation signal was bouncing through the drywall, or the camera was picking up spatial data through some kind of reflection. I don't know. But the map was accurate. I'd been in my neighbor's apartment once, briefly, when I first moved in. The layout on my screen matched. I mentioned it to a friend who works in IT, mostly as a funny story. He didn't laugh. He asked me to check something. He told me to go into the device settings and look at paired accounts. There were 2. Mine, and one I didn't recognize. Someone else had access to my vacuum, to its camera, to its microphone, to the floor plan of my apartment. I don't know for how long. I don't know who. I unplugged it that night, and I haven't plugged it back in. The account is still there. I contacted the manufacturer and they told me to factory reset the device and change my Wi-Fi password. That was the extent of their help. They couldn't tell me who the second account belonged to. They couldn't tell me what that account had accessed. I still have the vacuum. It's in my closet. I can't bring myself to throw it away because part of me thinks that's evidence of something. I just don't know what. My family got a robot vacuum as a Christmas gift. My wife set it up, connected it to our Wi-Fi, and scheduled it to clean the downstairs every night after we went to bed. We have 2 kids, 7 and 4, so the floors were always a disaster. The vacuum was a lifesaver. It ran every night at 2 a.m. We liked the late time because the house was completely still and the vacuum could move around without bumping into toys or shoes or whatever the kids had left out. Everything was fine for about 6 weeks. Then, my wife noticed something. She's a light sleeper and she started waking up around 2:15 every night. Not because of the vacuum running, but because it stopped. She said the sound would just cut out abruptly and then start again about 6 or 7 minutes later. She mentioned it to me and I shrugged it off. I told her it probably got stuck on a rug or something and had to recalibrate. She kept track of it. She's detail-oriented like that. She wrote down the times. Every single night, 2:15 a.m. The vacuum would stop for exactly 6 to 8 minutes and then resume. I finally agreed to check the activity log in the app. The vacuum tracks everything: when it starts, when it stops, what room it's in, the battery level, the whole picture. I pulled up the log for the past 2 weeks and looked at the 2:15 window each night. The vacuum wasn't stuck. It wasn't recalibrating. It was stopping in the hallway outside our bedroom. Every night. Same spot. Same time. And according to the log, during those 6 to 8 minutes, the camera was active. Not just passively on the way it is during navigation. The log showed a remote access event. Someone was logging into the camera feed manually from outside our network during that exact window every night. For 6 to 8 minutes, someone was looking through that camera at our hallway, at our bedroom door, at 2 a.m. while my family slept. My wife wanted to call the police. I wanted to figure out who it was. I contacted the manufacturer's security team. I had to escalate 3 times before I reached someone who actually understood what I was describing. They ran a trace on the remote access location. The IP address traced to a residential location 4 blocks from our house. 4 blocks. We filed a report. The police took it seriously once they understood what the device was capable of. But they told us that without more evidence, without proving what the person actually saw or intended, there wasn't much they could do with just an IP address. We threw the vacuum away. Not unplugged, not reset, threw it in the dumpster behind the grocery store 3 miles away from our house. Changed our Wi-Fi network name, password, and router. Changed every smart device password in the house. We never found out who it was. We never found out why they picked us. And for the next 6 months, my wife didn't sleep through a single night. She'd lie there in the dark, staring at the hallway, waiting for something that wasn't there anymore. At least, we hope it wasn't there anymore. This one happened in February of this year. If you follow tech news at all, you probably saw the headlines. A programmer in France, a hobbyist, not a hacker, just a guy messing around with code on a weekend, accidentally breached into the network infrastructure of DJI's Roma line of robot vacuums, using an AI coding assistant and what he later described as a series of lucky mistakes. He gained remote access to over 7,000 devices across 24 countries. 7,000 homes, cameras, microphones, floor plans, all accessible from his laptop. He reported it immediately. He didn't exploit it. He went public and the story made international news. DJI issued a patch and the vulnerability was closed. Everyone moved on. Almost everyone. About 3 weeks after the story broke, a woman in suburban Ohio, I'll call her Sarah because she asked me not to use her real name, received an email. It came from an anonymous Proton Mail address. No subject line, just an attachment and a single sentence. The attachment was a PDF. Inside the PDF was a floor plan. Detailed, accurate. Every room, every hallway, every closet. Measurements that matched her home within inches. The floor plan included the location of her furniture, her couch, her dining table, the position of her bed relative to her bedroom door. Sarah does not own a robot vacuum. Her neighbor does. The floor plan had been generated from her neighbor's device. The Romo vacuum next door had mapped Sarah's apartment through the shared wall, the same way it happened in the first story I told you. Except in this case, someone didn't just look at the map. Someone downloaded it. Someone studied it. Someone knew the layout of her home better than she did. The single sentence in the email read, "You should lock your basement door." Sarah called the police. They traced the email to a VPN. Dead end. They checked her basement door. It was unlocked. It had been unlocked for months. She rarely used it and hadn't thought about it. The police asked if anything was missing from her home. Nothing was. They asked if she'd noticed anything unusual. She hadn't. They asked if she had had any enemies, anyone who might want to scare her. She didn't. They filed a report, they told her to lock her doors, and they left. Here's what Sarah couldn't stop thinking about, and what I can't stop thinking about either. The DJI breach was made public. The patch was issued. The vulnerability was closed. That's the official story. But the programmer who found the breach said something in an interview that didn't get enough attention. He said that when he accessed those 7,000 cameras, he could see some of them had already been accessed before him. There were digital fingerprints on the system that predated his entry. He wasn't the first person inside. He was just the first person who told anyone. Which means that for some unknown period of time, weeks, months, maybe longer, someone else had access to those 7,000 cameras. Someone who didn't report it. Someone who didn't go public. Someone who sat in the dark and watched. And that patch that was issued, it closed the specific vulnerability that the French programmer found. But he was a hobbyist, a weekend coder who stumbled into a hole. If a hobbyist found one door open, how many doors are there that no one has found yet? Sarah moved 2 months later. She told me she couldn't sleep in that apartment anymore. Not because anything happened. Nothing happened. No one broke in. No one contacted her again. But every night, laying in bed in the dark, she could hear her neighbor's vacuum start its cleaning cycle through the wall. That quiet whir, that mechanical hum, and she knew with absolute certainty that there was a camera on that machine, and she had no way of knowing who was on the other end. Check every smart device in your home tonight. The cameras you forgot about, the microphones you didn't know were there, the permissions you granted and never reviewed. You might not be the only one watching.